Hello, I'm back, and we have a fantastic guest actually, an actor, writer, author, film producer, a comic book writer. He's done loads of
Yeah.
things. Simon Birks,
Yeah.
welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to International Game Book Day, or
Yeah.
days, I think we're calling it now.
Yeah. It's a fluid term. It's fine.
Yeah, indeed. And there's far too much to fit in one day.
Mm.
Now, Simon, you've got so many projects going on at the moment. I'm not quite sure where to start, but let's start
Yeah.
with your current Kickstarter, which
Okay.
is Innsmouth, The Stolen Child, a Lovecraft game book. Now, can you tell us
Indeed.
a little bit about it, and why it's quite exciting and why it's kind of personal? And
Yeah. Of course. Well, we say just to go back, we sort of we a lot of what we do is we publish comics, and we did a Kickstarter last year, which did really well, which was like which is a Lovecraft adaptation. So I thought so I've been involved in adapting another one of his stories, which is called The Shadow over Innsmouth, and in part of doing that, I thought, well, this is an excellent scenario for a game book. Basically, the protagonist in that story has to get out of, Innsmouth in general, but also a hotel called the Gilman House. And I thought, yes, I can do that. That's something that excites me and would work really well. And knowing that we've got quite a lot of fans now because of the comic, I thought, yeah, this would be a good thing to do. So I wrote it, and as ever, it was. I sat down and I thought, okay, I'm just going to try and limit this one to 400 paragraphs because, by golly, the first one I thought I sat down and tried to do, which was Arcane Writes Cult of the Pajoli, that managed to be 700 paragraphs at the end of it. And you think, oh, yeah, yeah, it just takes a long time, but no. Always there was paragraph creep, as they would say, I guess, and we it's got up to 600. So we got a 600 paragraph book where you're a private investigator. Someone's come to you, you in Arkham. Somebody's come to you and said, "Okay, my child's been stolen by the residents of Innsmouth. I'd like you to try and get them out, please." And yeah, you sort of go in there under the cover of night, and just got to walk the streets of Innsmouth and try and sort of meet up with a contact there, whilst not getting noticed. So a lot of this book really focuses on your conspicuousness score, which when you have to type in 50 times when you're writing it, is it's a long word. But yeah, so your conspicuousness, you've got to try and keep that low because obviously the more people see you, the more trouble you get into. Which is, and that's fine. So it's just another dynamic, which I introduced into this book. It's it's a lot of fun. There, we visit places that are in the original story, and it's just it's exciting. You get to do lots of things, and it is interesting. I like when I do my game books. One of the things I try and put into it is if you're is the feeling of time. So sometimes you'll be able to maybe do the same option but on different paragraphs, but you'll find that there is a different thing. If you've waited too long, the thing that you could do earlier is no longer available. So I try and put that in there, and I try and put the sense of needing to do things quickly. But yeah.
now, because you obviously write game books now, you've written,
Yes.
how many have you written? Two?
So yes, second one now.
Two. And the first one, can you tell a little bit about that? And is that still available? I'm trying to.
Yeah, so it's on our website, Arcane. So it's called Arcane Writes Cult of the Pajoli. It's book one. Yeah. I have started book two. So that will be the next one, next full book. And that's a fantasy one. But this is harking back to I'm a big fighting fantasy nerd. That was the range of books that got me into it in the first place. So so I wanted to do a fantasy one. For my first one that I wanted to do, I mean, I'd tried for 32 years to write one of these books. So I knew I wanted to try and do something which was fairly straightforward. So I thought a dungeon crawl would be nice and straightforward. There's not a lot of, you're not jetting around the place. You're just doing this thing. And I found out the way I can actually write game books is that I get those sort of like the Pathfinder map tiles, and I set it all out on there, and actually being able to visualize the whole thing before I started was the key for me to actually finish the game book. But yeah, so
I don't think there are that many just pure dungeon crawl game books out there, and I know there's an awful lot of people who are in love with Death Trap Dungeon and the other ones that came after that. So, but as a pure dungeon crawl, I can't think of too many. I'm sure I'll get corrected by the chat room. No, hang on, all these ones.
Wait a minute. Here's my list. But yes, so and also the other thing about Arcane Writes is it's written in the third person. That helped me write it more as a book, as a book. And again, so you play the part of Darillion, who also known as the Lightbringer, who has and she goes in. She has to her ward that will probably become in a prequel book somewhere. She has a ward, but they've been taken from her. It's all about stealing children, it would seem, but have been taken from her and by the Pajoli, who have a cave system nearby where she happened to be resting. So so she has to go in. And again, she has to go in and just try and save the day, and it's good. It's nice because I've had feedback saying people like the fact that it is third person, and it's also a female character. But the way, I like it because I try and guess why people choose the different ones they do. I'm basically based on my own brain, patterns. But you think, well, okay, you've got these like three differing things. Why would someone choose this one over this one? So when you turn to that paragraph, I try and give a bit of explanation as to why Darillion kind of chose that. And I'm hoping that sort of then ties in with why that person chose it. And just hoping to be a bit more immersive in the books.
What does Pajoli mean? Is that
It's just the name of it's just something that I googled and didn't get any results back from. So I thought that's a good word to use. So it's a bit. So it's just a cult of sort of witches, magical people who find other magical people and kind of use those the children's innate magical abilities for their own devices. They sort of like magical vampires. I'm sure there's that's
cool. So at the moment in your head, this is the first, and you mentioned a second. Is there a series? Have you got like a trilogy in mind, or 10 books? I don't know how. How do you think?
I'm not going to put a number on them because that's setting me up for failure. But the second book, is called Ascendance of the Witch, and there's something that you sort of find out at the back end of the first book, which is that then plays on. And basically, you then obviously you then have to. It is still part of the same story. I don't want to give too much away, but you're off. But this is a more open world. So, but not. I'm not going full on. You can go anywhere you want, but it's more. You're in the. You're not confined by stone. And so But so there's that one, and yes, of course, it's probably going to be a trilogy at least, I have to say. And what we'll probably find as well is that I probably will have little scenarios in the branching narrative, which we'll talk about soon, with Darillion. So maybe again, just some ideas like that, just to bring her as an adventurer into that. So
fantastic. Now, before we get onto the branching narrative, I want to talk about how you kind of got into the adventure writing and game book world. Now, you mentioned that you probably picked up your first book when you're about 12 years old and got at that stage. Can you remember which one that was?
It was the first. It was Warlock of Firetop Mountain. It was the first fighting fantasy book that came out. I'm pretty sure I was 11 or 12. I can even remember the space. I remember being at school and just having this book and just feeling so excited. Mainly because I had friends, but I didn't really have friends who were interested in the fantasy sort of genre and that sort of the D&D sort of role playing. So to have something come out which I can think, I don't need these other people. I can just do it myself. Was just liberating, I have to say. That was the exciting part, and I love them really, and I obviously still have all of them, the whole collection up on the shelf. That's the only thing.
The whole collection.
I got 1 to 59, and up on the shelf. And that's the only thing that generally, when it comes to books, it definitely comes out, every house or whatever I move to. That's the sort of, I find a space for those. So, not unlike many other fighting fantasy fans, I have to say. But yeah.
Indeed. So from there, what did you study at college or university?
Yeah, so I've been an IT person. I mean, for many years, that's been my day job. Up until October last year, I managed to do the publishing full time. But I've done lots of different types of writing, screenplays and plays and short stories and poetry, and pretty much you name it. About 5 or 6 years ago, I had a bunch of short films on my hard drive doing nothing, but gathering dust. And I thought, okay, and because it costs a lot of money to make short films, and there's not a lot of people thinking, oh, I've got a fiver, I want to spend it watching a short film. I thought, okay, let's do something with them. So that's how it got me into comics and sort of that sort of thing. So, and got me into publishing comics, initially my own work, and then as the years have gone by, we've been fortunate enough to have some great submissions come in, and we sort of publish other people now. And it's also quite a natural fit for the game books when we have a convention table. I mean, there's a in the Venn diagrams we're looking at here, there's an overlap between comic, graphic novels, game books. I'm
very struck by your artwork. So how does the artwork for the comics come about, and how does that reflect on your game books now?
I can't draw for toffee, unfortunately. It would save me so much money. But I'm very lucky. Initially, when we were looking for artists, I went round to Comic Cons. This is back in 2014. I think London Super Comic Con was the first one we went to, and we found some anthology books, UK anthology books, and the penny dropped with me thinking, the idea is, if there's artists out there who are already in indie anthology books, they'll probably be more open to me approaching them, saying, are you interested? So that's how we got quite a few of our artists. I definitely match the artists that we have to the story, and I'm also very picky. I only like artists that I like. I don't. They have to be a bit quirky, I think, and just a bit different. So that's kind of my criteria. There's another site that I found recently as well, where we find artists, place called Digital Webbing. And so the cover artist for Arcane Rights was one of our comic artists, a guy called Lyndon White, who does fantastic work, and he was desperate to draw a paladin. I think he's I think that's who he plays in RPGs, and also and the interior art is by a chap called Woody Roberts, who again draws some of our comics as well, based in Argentina. And for Innsmouth, The Stolen Child, there's also, again, it's Woody Roberts, but I brought along for the cover art a chap called R.H. Stewart, who is the artist behind our Shadow over Innsmouth adaptation. So I'm just very lucky. These people are they're really they're passionate about their work, and they put a lot of time in that I don't ask them to, but because they're professionals, that's what they do. And
I think they do love it. If you find an artist who really enjoys your work, that's
it
shows. I think it shows in the end. Now, if anyone does want to sort of have a look at your website, I believe it's bluefoxcomics.com.
That's
and there, I'm just looking at it at the moment. You've got all your Lovecraftian items there, digital, all ages. That's obviously all ages. What is all ages?
All ages books. So we got Spark. So we got different things. So we got sort of Sparks and the Fallen Star, which is a very sort of probably the youngest type book we've got, although it's still a 96-page book. It's a graphic novel, but it's for kind of probably ages 6, 7 or up, depending on their attention span. But we have other things like there's a comic there, graphic novel called Robin, which is a gender flip Robin Hood, where she's a young girl around 13 or 14 years old.
Sure.
And none of the normal people are as they seem. You also have
Arthurian. That was really cool.
The Hairy Dragons. Yeah, that's again set in the 70s, sort of the era that I was a young person too, and there's a boy who discovers that his ancestors and stuff are the ones responsible for almost banishing dragons to a different dimension, and so he's in sort of a quandary as to, is there a reason why they're there? Should he help bring them back, or should he help keep them there, sort of thing? So yeah.
Fantastic. Now, your latest project, amongst your current Kickstarter, your other project you're working on at the moment, as if you weren't busy enough,
that's how it works.
A branching narrative. I just want to make sure you have the website here, a branching narrative.substack.com.
Yes, that's
correct. So if you go to there, now this is an unusual project, as far as I know, it's unusual and fairly unique. Is it a monthly game book or bi-monthly?
So we're I'm doing a monthly game book. So I'm going to be, I have already started, obviously, and so every month we've got free subscribers to Substack, and also there's a paid option as well. The idea is every month the free subscribers will get the first room, like 25 plus paragraphs. Sometimes it will be a little bit more, but then the people who subscribe for the paid subscription will get the whole adventure, which will be at least 125 paragraphs. The first one is like 177. And that's it, and it's going to be different adventures set in different places, which is great for me. So because you can just I like the first one. You've got it's almost like it's a watchtower, and you've got to get in the watchtower, and you've got to get all the way up and signal to the people outside. Then that's the kind. So it's a very distinct is not the right word, but it's a contained kind of scenario. So that's the first one, and the second one is again it's on a spaceship, so completely different. All using familiar rules which Arcane writes and Innsmouth actually have, but it will let me sort of just go anywhere, and it's so for me it's sort of quite exciting, because sometimes when you spend many months on a 700 paragraph game book, you kind of having the variety is nice. It's quite freeing. So that's what we're doing. We launch the first adventure, the Watchtower, on the 10th of September. That's when it goes out. That's the plan, and then it'll be every month after that will be a new adventure.
Fantastic. Are you working with any other sort of authors at the the mean, you said we. Is there a group of you, or is it?
No, it's just me.
Is it all we? Yeah.
I reckon it must be. Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, obviously, if it takes off, the nice thing is we can start. I can start putting some illustrations in there as well. But we're a long way from there. We're right at the beginning at the moment. It's really nice. I've got some paid subscribers already, so that's really good, because I mean, the fortunate thing is I already had like the mailing list from Arcane Rights. So we've got lots of people who are very interested. They are very interested because I look at the open rates, and they're high for open rates. So there are keen people, and also and I've not gone to the Innsmouth backers yet, of which there are many hundreds. I've not spoken to them about it yet, because I just want to dot the I's, cross the T's.
Yeah.
Before I go.
And do you think that might turn into an anthology book?
That's exactly. I mean, the nice thing is, if I have 10 subscribers for the whole year, it doesn't overly matter, because I've got enough. I will have enough material for like 3 books. 3 books of 4 adventures each. That's the kind of idea. So it's kind of adding it on the side. Having this on the side as well. And so I've always looked at Patreon. I've always wondered, can I do something for Patreon? But always the interface and just the way it works has always slightly put me off. But since Substack has sort of raised its head recently in the comics market, it has lots of they've actually paid lots of big comic names to go over and do their work on Substack. So I looked at it. I thought, it seems quite straightforward for me, for a simple person like me. I can understand how it works, and so
it's not what I'm aware of, actually. I'll have to have a look at that up, and I think it is an interesting time. There's so many options out there for publishers and writers.
Yes.
now to reach a global audience, and it's an interesting way of doing things. So I know you also sort of have written and produced some films as well with Martin Gooch, who's well known within the fighting fantasy community. And you also had a film with Ian Livingstone as well, actually doing some acting in it.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So so many moons ago, I remember Martin put a shout out asking for looking for a screenwriter to help finish his Search for Simon script, of which I automatically put my hand up and said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that," because you got to say yes to things. And so we had a fun time. Me writing scenes and going back and forth and developing that, because it's a fun movie. I mean, it certainly appealed to my sense of humor, so I helped him co-write that, and then because I do a bit of acting as well, he very kindly said, "Would you like to have a part in it?" So I play Martin's best friend in it, because Martin's in it as well. He's the main character. So I play his best friend, and there was a very happy day or 2 days of filming when I got to meet Ian, and I shook his hand and said thank you very much for helping my childhood and being a big part of it. And he's a very nice man, as I'm sure everyone knows. It was very strange, very surreal, where young Simon with his Warlock of Fartop Mountain book, would he ever have thought he'd have written a film or co-written a film, and then for Ian to be in it. And I'm pleased to say, we actually the actual script won an award as well. So that's all in all, it was such a big boon. I've met him. I think I met him a couple of times afterwards as well at screening. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
that's great. Now I'm going to ask you. It sounds like you've got so much already planned, but are there any other future projects or current projects you want to sort of tell everyone about now? I think I can't believe you can fit any more in. But
there's the only other thing is it's sort of a game, but I'm searching for it's a dice and card game, but I'm searching for publishers at the moment. I was gonna go to Kickstarter with that, but no. So there's that's on the horizon, taking some time up, but I don't need to. That's to come, to be confirmed, which is good. But apart from that, lots more comics projects. There's another. We'll kickstart another comic in September, and for the rest of every month, because we just have so many things, which is very exciting. But no, that's probably enough for now. No. It's going to be some glaring thing up here. Simon, why didn't you say this? But I don't know.
Well, that's it. Now, if someone wants to follow you, in case you do come up with something in the next half an hour, yes. If someone wants to follow, are you on Facebook? I take it, or
we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Blue Fox Comics is literally at Blue Fox Comics, Twitter and Instagram. Another great place, once you find us on Instagram, is go to our link tree, because it has everything about us there. I've got all of our various things, including a link to a branching narrative as well. Myself, I'm S. Birks writer, and Birks Birks, but S. Birks writer, and that's at Twitter and Instagram. So you can find me in there. And Blue Fox Game Books is on Facebook. Maybe I'll add these into the comment section.
That's fine. Well, Simon, thank you again for coming.
That's okay.
Have a great weekend, and we'll hopefully see you at the next one.
Indeed.
Meet in person at the next event.
I would look forward to that.
Fantastic. Thank you again.
Thanks.